You're listening to the Everything Went Black podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Everything Went Black podcast. Karl and I are wrapping up our coverage of Karl Edward Wagner's Legions from the Shadows. And we are also, at least for the moment, concluding the Darkness Weaves project that we've been working on. We've completed most of, I would say, a good share of Wagner's material. There's a couple of stragglers out there that we have to track down, but for now at least, we're taking a little bit of a break. We're going to be focusing our efforts on the savage world of Robert E. Howard. I'd like to thank everyone who's been listening to this show. If you enjoy Everything Went Black, please check out the other podcasts brought to you by the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Kicking everything off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. Brandon and I will be picking up the Black Lodge collaboration that we're working on, beginning season 2 of Twin Peaks. Up next on Tuesdays, we've got Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere, the finest extreme music podcast in the land. Of course, Wednesday brings you Everything Went Black, as well as Iblis Manifestations. Thursday is Necro Thursday, where I return alongside Mike Scandato and Jeff Kashid for the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. And Karl comes at you on Thursdays as well with day 1 of Soul Knox. Friday, Spitball Media is released. It's an irreverent pop culture podcast. Saturday is a day off. So it's summer here in the North Hemisphere. Enjoy the summertime weather, because on Sunday, Karl returns with day 2 of Soul Knox. And as mentioned, we're doing the Darkness Weaves project, which are concluding, at least for the moment, with this episode of Everything Went Black. We're also doing the Savage World of Robert E. Howard. Thanks once again for supporting the show. If you want to step things up a bit, you can join the Everything Went Black Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get bonus content. For $5 a month, you get bonus content plus early access to the episodes. And for $25 a month, you can sponsor the show, and I will do an on-air read for your project, your business, your podcast, your band, whatever. Bran at last got a clear look at the great old one, and the Pict was glad the moon had but a crescent. He had expected a giant serpent, but this abomination from the pits beneath hell no more resembled a serpent than a narwhal is kin to a trout. It resembled nothing that had ever walked or crawled or swam upon the surface of the earth. Even in the monstrous past of Elder Earth, when alien horrors descended from beyond the stars to wage their unimaginable wars with other shambling shapes of cosmic dread, such blasphemies of demented creation as the hell worm was a survival never left their crypts beneath the cellars of hell. Miles from the sun, creation took place first within the earth, as pockets of decay fester beneath the unblemished surface. Welcome back, Karl. Um, I think this week is it's kind of like our collaboration week, it seems like.
Yeah, you're gonna have like two episodes on two podcasts. So it'd only be funnier if I had like a solo Knox of
Yeah.
us put out at the
Yeah.
same time. So
Yeah.
every podcast all week.
So it's a little bittersweet in some ways. I mean, we're so I guess temporarily concluding our work on Darkness Weaves. You
Yeah,
know,
eventually maybe I can get more of that collection will get republished. There's a few other Wagner collections, but they're just out of print and rather expensive right now. So
yeah, there's the Why Not You and I collection. That's like when I bought it, it wasn't very expensive. I remember I think I only spent like maybe less than $20 getting it, but now apparently it's a lot more expensive.
yeah, I might get lucky eventually and find a fair price. But right now it's like 60 plus.
Mhm.
I saw it going for 120 dollars like
Wow.
most recently for a paperback.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
crazy.
that's that's pretty nuts. And once again, speaking to the tragedy that most of his work is sadly out of print right now, except for that one collection we kicked off with.
Yeah, that and then being able to get crappy um Kindle versions of the Kane stuff.
Yeah.
Which at least there that even with the horrible covers, at least that exists.
Yeah, those covers are like you gotta wonder where they came why they it's like they almost look I mean, they came out before AI was a thing, but they look like complete AI slop.
They totally look like AI slop and they're like I don't know, there must be some sort of shitty like digital art though. I mean, obviously like somebody has no idea who Kane is, was told, okay, here, and I don't get how those covers to this day is they look like romance covers.
Yeah, like in one he's got like short hair and like a headband or something and like this tiny dagger. It just that doesn't really work.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is it's actually a big day. I mean, this big episode because this is kind of concluding Darkness Weaves for foreseeable future, and that's a process we started, I think, 3 years ago. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, we're not ending here. Obviously, as we've mentioned before, we're going to be um, next month we'll be shifting into our full on into our Savage World of Robert E. Howard series. Um, I believe we're going to kick off covering Kings of the Night. So we're still going to stay in the Bran world, but it's a good like crossover to call to read that one because
Yeah.
Cole shows up in it.
And luckily I was able to unpack all of my Robert E. Howard, Conan, Andrew Offutt, like the whole Hyborian Robert E. Howard canon. So that's all accessible to me right now.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. I have all those like Conan of the Isles. Like I forgot there's books that I had stored away that I completely forgot that I owned, which is kind of interesting.
Well, it's kind of nice though. I mean, you've consolidated everything to your house. It's like you can actually go through all the stuff. You're like, oh man, I forgot I had this.
Sort of Skelos, like all these books.
Yeah. The I figure for the Robert E. Howard, we will cover Cole. We might not do every single story that's in that collection, but we'll cover like the main stories because there's a lot of like fragments I think in
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
Like it's like a Cole collection, but there's only like four actual Cole stories I think, and then a bunch of fragments, and then like the early version of the first Conan story by the Saxo Rule, which we can or cannot cover. I don't know, I'm not sure, but and then we'll do Conan. Then after we do finish Conan, working our way through the three Del Rey books, I figure we can at that point then just kind of you know trade off each month. Like one month you pick a story, next month I pick one, so that way we can kind of like cover more of a range of his stuff rather than all right now we're gonna work through all of the Solomon Kane, all this stuff because then it's gonna be years before we get to like his westerns or any
Yeah.
or a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean?
No,
So
totally. And then also, I'd be really keen to do Almeric, his Sword and Planet novel that he did.
definitely am.
Yeah, that's a I don't know. Once Robert E. Howard attempting to do Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter of Mars style story with his own personal flair to it.
I actually like it better than a lot of Burroughs.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. He's a better
Yeah,
writer, really.
yeah. Well, I think it's just like a bit more brutal too.
Yeah. All right, so let's catch up with our hero Bran
Yep.
and his sister Morgaine. So we left Morgaine. She was jumped into an underground river, right?
Yeah.
So she was washed out of the caverns and onto the shore above ground.
That's a yeah, right at the start of her first chapter we're covering, she washes out. She fe got lucky and fell into a river that actually washed out of the cavern. We didn't really know that this the end of the last ep book episode, but that's where she is. And then Bran has been recaptured and is back in a cage
Yeah.
and is being held there while they you know, with some guards and currently though Srista or however you pronounce his name and the other and Atlan and them are like they're not there, it's just a bunch of guards. But Bran is feeling pretty depressed.
Because they've also indicated to him that they're gonna, basically clone him, and they don't actually need him to manipulate the rest of the Picts. They can sort of by proxy come up with their own version of him and use him to do their bidding.
Which is magic we see a little bit of later
Yeah, yeah.
towards the
It
end of the novel.
makes me think about the legends of the Golem. But
Yeah. Except these are like serpent golems.
these are serpent golems.
Yeah. Because they literally take a serpent and like it melts and takes on the shape of the person, but then acts just like a serpent, but it's in a human body.
Yeah,
But I think what their intent is, what I understood the last time was that their intent was to, I think like first they wanted to just like ensorcel him to go along with their plan so they don't have to do all this stuff. And then when that didn't work, yeah, I think the whole idea is to kind of like rip his soul out of his body or something like that so they can put it in this like serpent body that will do what they want it to do.
yeah.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
And this actually harkens back to the Atlantean tales, and the serpent people.
Hmm.
Except that it was more of a like in the cult stories, as we'll find out. But that's more of like a shape shifting sort of magic that they do, as opposed to like creating an automaton as they're doing in this case.
And I get the feeling that the man, it's kind of mentioned a bunch of times that even though Sarissa has been around for a long time, uh even for him, like the Age of Atlantis is like aeons before, like and so even he doesn't know like the magic that allowed them to shapeshift. So this is like some type of decayed version of this like snake shapeshifting magic. That's kind of what I figure.
Yeah. Now the black stone, I'm trying to remember if that actually was something that was present during the Atlantis era, or was that something that they latched on to later on?
I'm not sure. I don't think that Blackstone shows up in the actual Cole stories, as far as I know, as far as I can remember. I guess we'll see, you know. Um, although modern writers like the current like Conan series, they have the Blackstone in the Cole era with the Serpent People, which is cool. I mean, it makes sense. It feels like that's something that probably Howard would have kind of retconned in his own work, you know what I mean? Because the Blackstone starts showing up in every like versions of the Blackstone, the Ixoxar or 60 Stone shows up in a bunch of his stories after a certain point.
But it seems like that's like the main sort of talisman of the serpent people. They get derive a lot of their power, and a lot of their sorcery comes from the black stone.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Srista at 100% comes from the Blackstone. Like that's like the source of most of his power. And it's even kind of what what's his name? The Roman
Nero.
Nero, later on he'll try to like take it for himself, because he sees it as the power. as opposed to Srista himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Bran is locked in the cage in the room with Blackstone, which is, and of course, the room is like emanating this eerie dark light, and out of it rises Liuba, who we met earlier before he went down here, and she followed him down, and basically is like, "I'll set you free, but you need to make a promise," you know.
Yeah, she's a mysterious one, and her true nature doesn't get revealed until the very, very final pages of the book.
Exactly, yeah. And Bran is like desperate, so he goes, "Yes, name your price," and she says, "The price shall be of my naming when I so choose to name it, nor shall you refuse to honor me in that which I demand." You know, and so, um, yeah, Bran would have bartered even his soul in that moment when the alternative was certain and hideous doom at the ancient serpent's wizard soul-slaying sorcery. And she fucking kills all of the serpent guys, like, in no problem. Like, she's like, just like cuts through them. Like, as Bran's like amazed that she's able to kill all these guys so easy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And let's just for anyone who might have forgotten, she's one of the more Brand identifies that she is a also a Pict, but of that sort of same like high order that of descent that he is, not like the kind of degenerated, you know, Neanderthal-esque Picts that are in his current kingdom.
yeah, she's like a undecayed, as Lovecraft would say,
Yeah.
undecayed pick.
Yeah.
But now Bran wants to go save Morgaine. He doesn't know where she is. He just knows that she hasn't been recaptured yet. And Liuba suggests, well, maybe they took her, if they did capture her, maybe they take her to the as a sacrifice to the Great Old One. And Bran's like, well, let's go see. So they're gonna go to the pit of the Great Old One, and then that's when we pick up with Morgaine
Yeah.
as she finally comes out of the underground into the side of the heather, essentially. And then she has a little bit of hope for a second.
Yeah, for a second, and then she's recaptured by Nero and the Legio Infernalis.
Yeah. Yeah. The there is like a part where she seems to see, oh yeah, and that's right. At first she thinks that she's seeing ghosts rise up, but then she realizes that it's the Legio Infernalis.
Yeah. Some interesting stuff happens with Nero as he brings her back down into the underworld, and it's almost like a callback to an earlier story that we did called 20 Aught Swift, and we'll get to that at some point. Now, apparently Nero is projecting all these like romantic feelings onto Morgaine, and he's referring to her as Proserpina, and
Yeah.
if that is like part of it's like Persephone from the Greek mythology.
Yeah,
Proserpina is like a fertility goddess.
it's just the Italian name for
Yeah,
uh
Persephone.
Persephone, yeah. So she was kidnapped by Hades half of the year, and half the year she could spend with her mother. What's her mother's name? I can't remember. Yeah.
I get mixed up between the Roman and the Greek names actually. Um, like Diana, I think in the Greek
Yeah,
or Roman.
Persephone is the Greek name.
Yeah,
Let me see. Uh, yeah, Persephone is the Greek goddess. Demeter, her mother is Demeter, the harvest goddess.
yeah,
So, Persephone represented like the um like in the triple kind of goddess, like the Virgin Mother crone. She represents kind of like the virgin or the woman, at her height of before she becomes like as a kind of girl in a way, like a young woman. And then her mother Demeter is like motherhood, but at the harvest time, So like at the fullness of growth, right? And then Hecate in a lot of ways represents the death, the crone face, I guess. But so I think it's often seen that the idea is that Dis or Hades, or
Pluto.
take yeah, he takes her down into the underground into hell for the winter season, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
and then she's allowed to come back to Earth. She kind of represents like a type of fertility in a way, but it's like the spring and summer, right?
What's also kind of interesting too is like the whole like the Green Man and like Cernunnos in the you know the British the mythologies is also sort of like similar to that, like going into the underworld and the renewal and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because the Green Man returns. Well, yeah, I mean, because you have the Horn God, who's kind of like, I mean, Cernunnos is kind of like a mixture of the Green Man and the Horn God. Of course, the Horn God usually represents the moments of misrule, often represents winter, and then it's almost like two faces. So like his winter face is the Horn God, and then his spring phase is the Green Man, right? So during the winter, he almost represents like a Hadean type of figure,
Yeah.
a figure of misrule. That's why often like sorcerers are shown wearing like stag headdresses, and even like Odin's often represented as a kind of horn god in a lot of ways. That's why the horn god became the devil.
When the Christians sort of made their observation of the local mythologies.
Yeah, although there's quite a bit of idea that he was already a kind of devil, because if you look at Veles and Eastern European mythology, he was already basically a devil figure. Like that's the underworld figure was basically the devil already, even in the mythology, which is pretty interesting.
So Nero is projecting this whole thing that he, developed and placing Morgaine within this like romantic setting. And this is interesting. We were talking about this briefly, like how even though Nero is half serpent and half human, he really identifies himself as being a citizen of Rome and the whole culture.
Yeah, as human and Roman, he's grown up his whole life reading all these like Roman books in Latin, and he has this like belief, and they've like molded themselves after the Roman in every way. But he's like one of the last remnants of the like more human forms, right? Like the
Which,
rest of them are very serpent.
yeah, which is kind of interesting too, if you put him up against Bran too. You know what I mean? It's like I guess like the parallels. It's like, Bran
Yeah.
is like the more, patrician era of the Picts. He's like more like the Atlantean bloodline, and all of his countrymen are these like sort of degenerated, people. And similar, Nero is the same. He's serpent and human, but definitely more human. And then later on, as we get more, we get more intimate with the other legio, with the legionnaires. The description of them leads you to believe that they're like these monsters, these like serpentine, monstrous like figures,
Yeah, like humanoid serpents with like
like
Roman armor
serpent,
on.
yeah, Roman armor,
Yeah.
like serpent eyes and like weird slithering tongues and stuff like that.
Yeah. So like he's really you kind of understand why and he was supposed to basically end up with Atla. That was kind of
Yeah,
what was although Atla in her own weird way does seem to like want Bran.
yeah.
But but I think that see it kind of makes sense that the Nero would cast his sight on once he saw Morgaine go, oh, this is the lady for me. It's the first time he's probably seen like a normal looking woman. You know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly. Yeah, and he definitely clearly identifies more with the human aspect of himself, and like he probably, I think I mean, in some ways he's disgusted by the serpent blood that he has, it seems. Like
Yeah.
he would much rather be a full Roman, and he's even gotten to the point where he's conditioned himself to be out in the early morning sun too.
Yeah, he's trying to like make it so that he can see the be out in sunlight again, you know. And like he like dreams of seeing the sunlight of his forefathers, you know.
Yeah.
And he also, as we find out in the chapters, Morgaine figures out that Nero hates Sarista and like the serpent, the children of the night, and she starts using that. She's pretty smart with like wheedling, kind of like needling him to like like take some extreme action. You know what I mean?
Right. And so Nero also forces himself on Morgaine, which is kind of brutal actually in this story. Really, if you think,
Yeah,
it's like it's like part of me was like, oh, do we really need to go there? But that's what's the way the story's written.
yeah, that's what happens. I mean, he doesn't really like describe it. It's just like all of a sudden he's like giving her wine and then takes her basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's like at least we don't get detail about it.
Yeah. But with that in mind, I guess this is important to the story because Morgaine uses that to sort of antagonize Atla, because now Atla is like the third wheel in this scenario.
Yeah,
you
because
know,
the next day Atlas shows up and Nero had told the Atla and Srisra that he had that she had died. She got eaten by the quote unquote the crawlers, which are those things that were on the on the next to the river. And he says they are like fully decayed versions of the children of the night. And it's never described, they're never described, but they're just described as like horrifying like monstrosities essentially.
well, I also in that pseudo description of them, because there's a ton of Lovecraftian stuff going on in this story. I feel like they're like probably one of the most Lovecraftian aspects of the story, where and more in the way that Wagner chooses to not describe them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a lot of detail.
Yeah. It's really they're pretty creepy, you know. And and but what, I think she starts like the thing with Nero is that I feel like he's kind of he's a complicated villain, and he's not
Yeah.
100%. He's definitely on a kind of on the negative side of things, but you also can't really blame him because it's not really his fault that he was born in this like fucked up like underground society as slaves to these serpent people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also another level of complexity too is the fact that he's a Roman descendant of Roman conquerors too, like these imperialists that are, coming into Britain. So he's clearly the villain, but it's not, it's like sort of like complicated as to how evil he actually is though. You know what I mean? Like Sritsa is straight up like he's evil. He's like
Yeah.
this non-human creature that's, looking to subjugate, the Picts and the. But Nero is like identifying himself more as a human, but has been sort of like, he wasn't asked to be plucked from oblivion and placed into this world that he's in. It's
Yeah.
just this is the roll of the dice for him, and now he's sort of, dealing with it as best he can.
What I think is interesting is that uh one aspect of the whole story that I think is pretty interesting is that there's like all these like kind of because Saoirse in a way is also like Bran and like Nero. So it's like this kind of trio of these like um remnants of a degraded race essentially, you know what I mean?
True, this is true. I pretty much did not think of that about Sorcerer.
Yeah, because you got the Roman, you got the the Pict, and then you have the Serpent Man, and that kind of represents the I guess the real combat in the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the
so
whole story.
yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, it's like these three factions.
Um, but so then Sorceress shows up as soon as Nero leaves the next day, or, whatever goes for day in that place, and sees Morgane is there and grabs her essentially and is gonna sacrifice her to the Black Stone or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, we kind of touched on it, but like back in that 22 Swift story, um, one that short story we covered a couple of years ago at this point. There's a sort of another underworld reference, which I immediately, when I read this, I was like, oh, Wagner has this fixation about Persephone in the underworld because at the very end of that story, we've got the character Ginger and the main character Eric, who, is sort of this out of place surface dweller who thrives in the underworld and steals her to become his Persephone and lord over the underworld and the denizens that live below the earth. So it seems like Wagner has like a very, very interesting like fascination with this whole myth and being below ground and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it shows up a few times in his horror short stories, like you said, like that one in particular. And then, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that that's almost like a modern day version of what he then put into this story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The I need to reread that story because I don't remember all the details of it. It's been a few years now. But I remember really liking the way he captured like the underground. Was that the one where the guy gets knocked out?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like in the since reading all these, the underworld comes up quite a bit, and it's very much like interested me in these stories of the underground too, and how it shows up in movies too, like The Descent, and the Pellucidar short stories that Burroughs did, and Mackin has a bunch of stuff that takes place underground.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Have you ever seen that map of like disappearances and then a map of like cave systems overlaid of the country?
No, I haven't
And
seen
that
that.
Yeah, so like a lot of the disappearances that occur when people just go missing occur around places where there are caves and like
Ah, right.
underground passages and stuff. Particularly in the Appalachians, there's a lot. There's a lot of disappearances that happen there in these around these cave areas. And of course, it might just be people going into the caves, but it's also pretty creepy at the same time.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, yeah.
Like so you don't want to fuck around being like going in caves, really.
No, no, no. Yeah, it's like, I mean, tomorrow's episode of Necromaniacs, we're going to be talking about um, Quatermass and the Pit, which is also an underground story too. You know,
Yeah, some of the things you find underground,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean, and of course, like that also reference people, the whole thing, like like the idea of these like creature, ancient creatures underground, like burrowing under the earth. I mean, you understand when people have this idea that these exist, and who knows, maybe they do. We
yeah,
don't know.
this is true.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so now Liba leads Bran to the crypts of hell, the pit of the great old one, that's what it's described, which is the giant, like we'll get described it more later, but it's a creature that burst up out of the ground earlier.
Yeah, they refer to it as the Hellworm.
The hell worm. It's a wriggling like gelatinous mass thing, like which kind of sounds like uh did you ever what was his name? Fuck, I'm blanking on the name. There's like a short story that's about this like slug-like thing that comes out of the ground, that like eats people who live in this like church. Um, can't think of the author's name.
Sounds familiar.
It's got a Latin name. But anyways, there's a bunch of horror fiction stuff that's got like these like slug things like that.
Well, not to mix authors here, but the latest Adam Neville novel, Monumental, features a creature from below the surface of the earth, possibly from another dimension, that is called the Bloodworm.
Yeah.
And that whole new Adam Neville is so Robert E. Howard inspired, in my opinion. It takes place in modern times, but there's actually a sword fight in the story too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there it starts off with like that Robert E. Howard quote, and it's just so fucking awesome.
It's totally 100% in line with this book.
100%, man.
The
Yeah.
hidden things in the British nature.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And yeah, the hellworm is like some thing that grew out of like putrefaction down here. So it almost sounds like I don't know, some type of bacteria that then took shape, or something like that. That's almost what it's described as, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
It's and it apparently leaves like this like
like
uh
a slime trail as it
yeah.
slides across the ground.
Yeah, it's definitely like a big slug. It leaves this like slimy like thing and it has this like disgusting like serpent nest smell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty disgusting. But there's like this giant pit, which is where it's this giant pit and it goes really far down, but there's this outcropping where there is like an altar and which is where the children of night leave their sacrifices to the great old one. And it's pretty gnarly. And so they go down and they can see that she hasn't been left there yet because there's not like recent remains there. But they come up with the idea that Bran has the idea that all right, I'll stay here just in case we go since you can we one thing we forgot is that Liuba can see in the dark apparently.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah. So
giving you hints at the because she's like this mysterious figure that just appears out of nowhere.
yeah.
And she can see in the dark, and she's appears to be from an ancient race. Still Pictish, but the ancient Picts, not the current Picts.
Yeah. And yeah, now Bran figures out that she can see in the dark. And he tries to like go, yeah, it's some people can just see better in the dark.
He's like totally justifying everything.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's cool that you can see in the dark. It's
Yeah.
cool.
And then so she goes off and also he wants to get some like Roman armor so they can maybe like infiltrate. And anyways, he's just waiting for there a little bit. He kind of falls asleep. The next thing he knows, Liuba shows up and is like, they have more game, but they're taking her to the Black Stone instead.
Yeah.
And so now they kind of rush off.
And this is where Sristra does his shape shifting sorcery. Um,
Yeah, and it's like he's got the two cages in front of the Black Stone altar. He's got Morgaine and one naked, and then
of course, naked.
yeah, of course, and then I'm surprised they didn't draw that on the cover of the book, and then the serpent next to it. I am really surprised that that's not what they picked. They didn't pick like her in the cage naked with like
The snake.
yeah,
Yeah.
with Bran like fighting, or some shit. But it's funny because that Road to King's cover has the one chick like she's totally described as dressing like a male,
Yeah.
where like in like a bikini.
Yeah.
But
Hey, you gotta sell books, man.
yeah, it does sell books. But yeah, then like he starts doing his magic, and the serpent like we mentioned, it melts and turns into like this weird version of Morgaine, and Morgaine starts screaming. And at this point, that's when Bran and Luba show up, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And then, essentially, oh no, they don't show up yet. What happens is that, um, Nero cuts Saristра down, which is crazy. He
That's
like
right.
just
Yeah,
like
he
hacks
straight
him
up
to
kills
death.
him.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
like
And, you get the sense that Nero has been waiting for that opportunity for quite a while, though. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And I think that like Saristra like this is just the final straw, you know what I mean? Of like, because he kind of degrades him and Atla and just like acts like just like he is kind of a cock, you know. He just acts like he's like superior to everybody, you know. And that's his fine. That's what gets him, you know, trying to. And I like this moment. I was like I was not I to be honest, I wasn't expecting this to happen.
No, no, it came completely unexpected for me too. And
And
for
so
there's a glimmer where you're like right on, right on Nero, but he has his own designs. You know what I mean?
yeah, but it he does. They decide they're going to exterminate the children of night because they've even like the less humanoid versions of the Romans, they all have this kind of like aversion to the children.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because Nero, in one of his conversations with Bran, there's a point where he kind of showed him like the different encampments that they had underground, and he was explaining to Bran that he had, in order to like build up his army, he actually had to go into the lower levels of humanity, like the less human versions of these hybrids to swell the ranks of the Legio Infernalis.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because so like he's kind of made it like this like case system where you have like the more human
Yeah,
or like the higher level. Yeah. And and so like that's basically what happens. Bran and Luba show up to the cavern of the Black Stone and there's like literal all out like war. Luckily for them, they put on the Roman costume. So now they're like attacking the worms of the earth, and all the Romans just think they're like, you know, what some of them basically, you know.
yeah.
And so there's this big like carnage-filled battle there as Bran and Luba try to like fight back to back and make their way up to Morgaine. And it takes a minute for so they start like trying to get the cage open. First, Bran is deceived by the serpent Morgaine and until she bites him
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
serpent.
Sort of at the last moment too, he notices that her eyes look different and everything.
Yeah, and then Leober is like, no, like Morgaine is described as being like crumpled in like the cage, and realizes that she's there.
And he also notices that she's not beat up like Morgaine was too. Like Morgaine still has like, the marks like where they were, flogging her and bruises and stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah, the serpent one was like perfect. So they pull her out, and I like it when she says like she was touched by like this unholy magic for a moment. Like it filled her like this disgust, like her very soul was being like touched by this like you know, ancient evil or something. Like I really like that part, you know, where she describes that.
Yeah.
Like, because it just makes you think, okay, so this is like something really like almost unclean, you know what I mean? Like this like magic, you know. Um, and they shoot her up with like they give her, you know, she knows a little bit about swords, so they give her like a shield and a sword and some Roman armor. So she's like naked with like a sword and a shield and like a helmet, you know, like. And then eventually somebody, I think it might be Outlaw, goes, oh, you know, look, they're like freeing her and there's Bran or whatever. And they know they have to like they have a fight with like some of the Nero's men, although Nero himself has like gone off to exterminate um, a bunch of the children,
Children of the
you know.
Night. Yeah.
So then they go to try to get out and at a certain point they reach this one point. We forgot to mention earlier that in the scene in the when Bran was waiting for Liuba, part of the reason he fell asleep was because Gonar was calling to him to like communicate with him essentially.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's a dream sort of connection.
Yeah,
Their
so
communication.
it's throughout all the Bran stuff, Gonar like, and this is in some Conan and Call as well, like, but Gonar like communicates with Bran through dreams essentially. And so Bran had told Gonar where they were. And that's important because later what happens is as they're trying to escape, they're getting close to where the to the Kestrel Scar or whatever to get out through that, the
Yeah.
tunnel.
The tunnel. Yeah.
And at a certain point, they have to kill a bunch of Romans that come on them from behind, and then they think what they see is a bunch of Romans coming, like 100 of them down in front of them, and there's some behind them. But then when the ones in front of them get close to realize that it's Grom and like a bunch of Picts basically have come down. Gonar sent them to save Bran essentially.
Yeah.
And then that's how Bran finally gets out of the fuck underworld essentially.
Yeah. Now Luba and Bran split up. Uh, they split up their activities because she goes to sort of go back to her quote unquote people to bring reinforcements, and Bran
Yeah.
continues over to Baldor with the rest of his people.
Yeah, and then because they basically they figured that at this point, Nero is probably going to attack them. Nero's does have no interest in Sristra's thing. Nero does have this like delusion that he can just which we'll find out later, that he can just like go and find the Romans and be accepted as one of them essentially.
Yeah, it's like almost tragic how that turns out for him, even though he's a villain, like, but once again, it's almost like he's like this tragic figure in the story in some ways.
Yeah, and he thinks that if he can like take out Bran and Baldur, then he can like go to the Legion and be like, see, I'm like this leader and all this stuff, like I'm one of you, I've been But so he goes to attack Bran, and essentially so we get like a big like kind of fight, and I like how it starts off with they hear like digging underneath them.
Yeah.
And so Bran's like, okay, let's clear that wall because he knows what they're doing. They're like digging underneath. Um, and when it all breaks loose, it's basically the hellworm breaks out of the fucking makes this bit tears down one of his walls essentially and breaks through this big hole. And luckily Bran is prepared though. They brought a bunch of like flaming arrows and pitch and shit. So like, but this thing is like that's when you really get described as disgusting. Like, uh, I don't know. It's like a slug with a mouth on the front.
Yeah, and it's got like these appendages, and it's like once again, it's like very much in line with the way Lovecraft describes his monsters. Where these like it's hard to visualize them because it gives you just enough details for your mind to like sort of go wild with what it looks like.
Yeah, it's got these like kind of I guess like tentacle things, but it's like described as being like if you hit it with a sword, nothing happens really. Like it's almost like gelatinous.
Yeah,
It almost reminds me of a gelatinous cube in D&D.
yeah, like a little bit of a Shoggoth, maybe, sort of vibe
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it is kind of a Shoggoth, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's very much like what Lovecraft describes a Shoggoth as in At the Mountains of Madness.
it's kind of formless, like weird paramecium kind of like
Do you, do you,
creature.
do you think that maybe Wagner was hinting that it's a Shoggoth in a way?
I mean, that's how I was, I was feeling that for sure. Like maybe not in the very beginning, in the very beginning, I just assumed it was going to be like like a worm, like in the Valley of the Worm story, this like, dragon-like creature or something like that.
Yeah.
But as it was described, more this gelatinous slime creature, the first thing I thought about was that, oh, this is a Shoggoth, you know?
Yeah, it seems like that's something you would do too, like to kind of connect it to Lovecraft since Howard
Yeah, and they
did the
refer
same
to it
thing.
as like a great old one too, you know?
That's true. They call it the Great Old One. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would. I kind of think that it probably is a Shoggoth, or intended to be. But he's clever enough to go like they don't know what this is called, so just call it the Hellworm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally.
They don't know it's a Shoggoth. They just know it's a crazy monster
Yeah.
that eats people. And yeah, so they do defeat it sort of. Like they can't kill it, but they drive it away by essentially through fire. Like lighting it afire with like fire arrows and then throwing pitch on it. So that's the only thing that works. Like swords don't cut it. Any soldier who tried to attack with a sword just died. But all the soldiers who went to throw the pitch on it usually died too, you know. So it was like pretty desperate fight. But they do, and that's the kind of the vanguard of the battle though, because once they drive him away, or it away, that's when Nero comes up with the rest of the army and attacks the walls essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like Nero was, I guess, using the power of the Blackstone to sort of,
Exactly, yeah.
direct this Shoggoth or Hellworm, aka Hellworm, to make
Exactly,
a
yeah.
breach in the wall.
Yeah, like I guess like and he could use the Blackstone to, you know, channel it essentially, which is cool. It makes sense how through the rest of the story how they kind of used it. And yeah, and then we have this big battle which is pretty cool with all the and it's described how like there's all these like inhuman like serpent men wearing Roman armor.
It's a good visual, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, but the
And
Picts
then
turn the tide on the Legio
once
people.
once Lyuba shows up with a whole
Yeah,
bunch of her people, and Brand's like, where did they? He doesn't have any idea where they could have come from, but and they seem to disappear
yeah,
because they go chasing off like a bunch of the Romans, but they break apart the Roman thing, and Lyuba does show up, but they essentially Nero like runs away essentially.
yeah. So he starts heading south. Thinking that once he gets over Hadrian's Wall, he could join the Romans, considering himself to be a citizen of Rome. You know,
Exactly, yeah. And we were shown like it is kind of it's an ironic ending. It's kind of sad in a way, even though he's an evil guy. You kind of feel bad for him because he gets down there and they think that he's a Pictish spy and they crucify him.
well, what's also interesting too is like the Romans have like the Goths, these Gothic warriors, like they're indentured into the legion, and the Roman leader comments about how bad their Latin is and how his Latin is worse than theirs. How Nero's Latin is like almost unintelligible.
Right, because it's like more than like it's like their like memory of what Latin should be based off of what they're reading. You know what I mean?
And it's like this double stab through the heart for Nero because in his mind he's like part of Roman society, but he barely speaks their language, or his intention in learning Latin fell so far short that he is like considered to be one of the enemy, like an enemy, like spy, basically.
Yeah. And I get the feeling that he really was like read all the books in Latin, but it's like that thing like you're trying to like figure out how to speak a language through just reading, like it's not gonna be and through like the degraded kind of, it's been what, like 100, 200, 100 years or something like that of them being underground, 200 years.
Yeah. Actually, I remember when I was in high school in history, we were learning about like Ben Franklin, who taught himself how to speak French with English pronunciation.
Uh-huh.
And when he tried to communicate with French people, they obviously couldn't understand it.
Yeah. Because yeah, if you just try to learn a language through reading,
Yeah.
you're not gonna it's not gonna, you really can't figure it out, like you need to hear it. You can learn it through reading. You can learn how to read a language. It's much easier, in a lot of ways. But trying to learn how to speak it is a whole different ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was Nero's tragic end. He winds up crucified by the people that he wanted to join, essentially, rejoin. And they also commented about his uniform, being part of the Ninth Legion, the legendary Lost Ninth Legion, and how it was like this affront to Roman society that he was wearing this uniform.
Yeah, like they think that he's just like some pick who like found the corpses of the Ninth Legion, and yeah,
Yeah.
and you can understand how they would think that too.
Yeah.
But it's pretty extreme to just crucify him like that. But the um and it's such a interesting again total like Wagner likes to do this kind of stuff. I was not expecting that at all.
Nope.
to be honest. I was not expecting that to be the end. Um, so it was total surprise when I got to that. You're like, like what the fuck? And then we end with Luba showing up with Bran being like, we're gonna, and he wants to go after him after Nero, but she leads him to this to back to this barrow, and she reaches for to like kiss him, and next thing he knows, he's coming to, and there's like Morgaine and Gonar and them there, and apparently it was actually Atla who saved him by realizing that recognizing Liuba, because she's actually like an undead like lich woman essentially.
Yeah. From
Like
Atlantis, like from the Pictish, the Atlantean era Picts.
yeah, like who and it like they kind of describe her as a Lamia in a way, but she's really like the sorceress who like never died essentially. But she is kind of a Lamia. She's like gonna drink his blood essentially and make him. I think she want to make him immortal to live under the in the barrows with her. You know what I mean? That was her intention. But Atla had seen her body laid out in like one of the barrows.
Bran has had quite a time in these two stories that we've done. He had to have sex with Atla, like a half serpent, half human. He gets bitten by his the serpent golem of his sister, and then he potentially gets like bitten by an undead Pictish sorceress Luba.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, they say at the end, I think the final line of the novel is like he's like that she never died.
yeah,
So she just like transformed herself into this immortal, yeah, it's kind of like a lich, and that's what a lich
pretty,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
essentially, yeah.
Which Wagner loves that whole concept of like a sorcerer turning themselves immortal.
Yep. And liches too, like have shown up on numerous occasions in these short stories, either in the Kane stories or in the his horror short stories.
Yeah, Wagner had seemed to have a real obsession with this idea of like immortal sorcerers and turning themselves into like these like undead creatures. It shows up in a lot of his stuff. But yeah, which was again, something's up with her, but I wasn't 100% expecting that. But I love her response because I think her barrow is where the worm came out of the earth.
Yes, yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right. Yep.
And when he asked her about it, she's like, you saw it?" And she's like, "Yes, I was there." Like very like enigmatically. And he just thinks, "Oh, she's just watching from the heather or something." Brand's pretty thick.
Yeah, yeah. There's almost like a comedic element, which in the way that Wagner handles Bran Mak Morn, you know, like
Yeah,
subtle, not like broad comedy, but like a subtle wink here and there. I find, in his version of Bran Mak Morn.
yeah. And do you think that if I have any like real criticism of the novel, is I do think that Bran is a little different in the novel than he is in Howard stories.
Well, the one difference is that Bran is as very bad judgment in the Wagner version of the character.
Yeah, worse
And,
judgment than the
yeah.
one in, yeah.
And Robert E. Howard's version of Bran, he's a little bit more cunning, I think, and a little more, strategic in the way he deals with things.
Yeah, like he gets taken too far with calling Hundle worms and he realizes they shouldn't have done that. But he strikes me as more of like a Conan in a lot of ways than the Bran we get in this novel. He seems like a bit more bumbling. Like
Yeah, exactly.
he doesn't really seem to ever make any good decisions across the whole
Well,
story
dude,
until the very end, like
yeah, I mean, you can see actually, I'm going to say this right out straight away. Like this is almost like a fool's journey, really. You know what I mean? He discards his crown. He like goes alone into the underworld. Like, you
I
know,
wonder. I bet that's on purpose, though. Like you mentioned, you saying that, I'm like, oh, I think this is all on purpose. Like Wagner's like writing because that does seem to start going away towards the end of the novel. Like he starts becoming a bit more like the Wagner, the Howard brand
yeah.
after he's saved by Luba.
But even his like, you know, promise I mean, I get like he was in a desperate situation, but also promising something when not knowing what you're promising is a pretty big miscalculation too, you know?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's almost like the fool's journey, you know, like in for Bran Mak Morn, you know, in the the Karl Edward Wagner saga here.
Well, one thing I've realized with Wagner is that he's never even his his version of Conan was fairly similar to Howard, but pretty different as well. I get the feeling that Howard like Wagner does as much as he loves the sword and sorcery stuff, he does like to kind of subvert it, you know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
seems like, you know.
Yeah, and this the tone between this is straight up like we've mentioned this on every episode. This is like a horror story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It has
Yeah.
a lot more in common with his horror stories, you know. Like you mentioned the what's it called? The 20 six or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. 22 Swift and
Yeah.
the whole like Persephone and the underworld and all that sort of stuff. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think this sequel was necessary, or what's your sort of take on this whole thing?
Well, I get the feeling that Howard left off of Worms of the Earth almost intending to write a sequel, but just never did.
Yeah.
Just the way Worms of the Earth ends, like it really sets up like another story. But Howard got distracted and started writing Conan instead. You know what I mean? Because
Right. Right.
he literally went from writing like those to writing the Conan story. So I get the feeling that once he did that, he kind of dropped both Cole and Bran and just was writing, Conan for a few years, you know.
Right.
So I do think that he probably had the intention of doing another Bran story. So I feel like Wagner picked up on that and decided to make his version, what he imagines the next Bran story would be. And other people have done their versions because they do believe that there's been some other Bran stories that were set as like sequels to this. You know what I mean? So that people have done a few different attempts at picking up where Worms of the Earth left off.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it was definitely like in line with something Howard, maybe not, note for note something Howard would have done, but I feel like this is like within the wheelhouse of Robert E. Howard writing a story like this. Like I feel like it's a fitting sequel.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and one interesting thing about the story too that is that right at the beginning it reads a little bit more Howard-ish, but then it becomes more and more Wagner as you read.
Yeah.
You notice that like that's just the way the writing is. It became a bit more modern as it went on.
Especially the irony of Nero's fate is very Wagner, I think. That ending, you know?
Yeah, I think all the ending with Luba,
Yep.
the whole thing. Like although Howard would probably put like an ending with like that kind of witch woman, and as well. I mean, he liked his witch women, so
Yeah. But with a lot of Wagner's like horror stories, there is almost like, like in EC comics, like the typical story arc where like, the villain gets this you know, he gets his comeuppance, in a sort of ironic way sometimes. And I feel like in this has like almost like an EC comics ending for Nero,
yeah, definitely. I'm
where
sure
it's
does
like
he.
ironically the Romans are the ones who killed him.
Well, I'm sure that the ZC Comics were a big influence on Wagner. If you think about, he was the prime age for that. I mean, my dad read all him are like close to the same age. My dad read all that EC Comics in the 50s growing up, and so that was like a big part of his childhood. So I would imagine Wagner's the same way.
Do you have any of those collections?
Yeah, so I have a few of the old collections, but something I meant to send you coming out in a few months. I'll send you the link on Amazon. They're putting out a one book. It's like a big omnibus that has all of the Tales from the Crypt in one book. It's gonna be like $130.
How the fuck would
So
you even lift that book, man, to read? It's
it's
like,
gonna it's gonna be like 1,000 something pages because there actually wasn't that many in the long run. There's only like 2 years of comics if you think about it. So
yeah. Yeah,
so
but still, it's like
but
I have that Sin City omnibus. It's like it's almost like so big it's almost uncomfortable to read it.
Right. They have put out a bunch of trades of the that's one nice thing now because there for a while all you could get was the hardcovers and then now they have so you can buy a bunch of trades of all the DC comics like Tales from the Crypt, all the horror. That's come out recently. I have thought about picking up some of those just to have a nice thing, but I also want to pick up this omnibus because it
Yeah.
would be cool to have like and I don't know how many I don't remember, can't remember how many pages it's gonna be. It's gonna be, but it's gonna be. I mean, that's like all of them in one collection. It's gonna be real nice to have.
Well,
I hope that
I'll
they.
probably get it.
Yeah, I'll
Definitely.
send you a link. Or you look up Tales from the Crypt comics on Amazon. It might show up. I'm hoping that they do the same for Vault of Horror, and Haunt of Terror. Because that would be sick to have like 3 volumes of all three of those. You know, like I would love that.
Here it is.
Like I think the pre-order is like 130 or something like that,
Yeah, it's
which
exactly
is
it. Yep. Pre-order.
I can't remember. When does it come out? Like December
No,
or something?
it
November?
says here it says November 10th. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
which is cool.
we'll
I'm
see.
hoping that means that they're going to put out another omnibus with Vault of Terror and then Haunt of Fear or Haunt of Horror. So that would be really cool.
I'm all about it, man.
Because I really like the Vault of Terror and yes, Haunt of Horror, right? Or Haunt of Fear. I forget.
Yeah.
Those are both really cool too. I have a bunch of like the old, you know, like in the 70s or 80s, they did like the reprints.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the
I
I
have a
have
bunch of
some of
those
the
too.
I have some of the reprints, but I don't have anywhere near the complete collection of that stuff.
No, I just have like I had the first couple old hardcover editions of each one of them. Like and that's about it. And a bunch of the reprints. And I've always wanted to have all of them, so this is gonna be cool to just have one thing I can buy rather than having to buy all the trades. Um, which would also be cool, but yeah, I mean I'd love to have all three of those old EC things, like the full runs, you know, because I love reading those. They're so fun.
Yeah, no, totally.
It's perfect thing to read around Halloween because for me, like the EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt stuff is just prime Halloween horror feeling. You know what I mean? Like the artwork and everything.
Well, dude, as we're recording this, we're in August right now, but I'm starting to feel the summer winding down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we had like one cool day here, and that was like the first time I was like, oh, I can kind of feel it, but then it's been hot again. So
Yeah. I mean, today was brutally hot, but like,
there's
um,
little touches of it, yeah, here
yeah,
and
man,
there. Yeah.
it's like I think like you get to like the middle of August, it starts feeling. I mean, we're in the beginning of August, but like I reckon in like another week or two, I'm gonna start feeling summer winding down and sort of slowly transferring into the autumn, which is really what I love.
Yeah. But my favorite time of the year is basically like September, October, November, December. Like that for me is like it's getting dark earlier, it's getting cooler, you know, nights get cold finally. Like I love
Yeah,
it when recently like for all of July, night has been like hot here. Like it's been
yeah,
like
totally.
75 degrees in the middle of the night and shit like that. So I can't wait for it to be like I said the other day it was like 60 like in the morning and at night and I was like it felt chilly because it's been so hot here.
Yeah,
I was
no,
like this feels
totally.
so good like you feel like refreshed like I feel like I can think when it's cool.
Well, like I was telling you before we started recording out here at where the house is, it's like, you know, where like we have like wildlife here and like trees and straight up legit forest, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest things about the Hudson Valley too is like inside these forests, you'll find like these old like stone fences and from before, you know, from colonial times and things like that, you know, where they had this land was actually it wasn't a forest, it was like some sort of farming, you know, setup.
I'm sure you can find old like ruins of colonial houses and
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff, or
Yeah.
there's a ton of shit there.
So I'm like really looking forward to that. You know, it's but like I was telling you before, like right now it's just very much like just still unboxing, still moving shit from here to there, painting. Like, hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have most of that, wrapped up.
Are you guys gonna decorate for Halloween? Your
Oh,
first
dude.
Halloween in your house? Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be
Well,
sick.
yeah, my wife is a big, big, big Halloween person. And, finally we've got all of our Halloween decorations out of storage. So that's, we're gonna organize the basement into the different seasons of stuff. Like she's big on decorating. So there's like Halloween bins, then there's like Christmas bins, so all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that.
Oh yeah. It's kind of it's not it's kind of nice having at least some things different, during this time of years because you feel like part of the season in a way. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, totally. And up here it's like pumpkin country and
I mean,
wild
your prime Halloween area now.
yeah, dude, like wild
Like.
corn and hay rides and things like that. And so it's like, we'll probably go to Sleepy Hollow. I know that I was telling you before that I was up in Salem for a wedding. So we're planning to do like a post Halloween Salem visit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could go in
Maybe
like
like
November.
a November coming fire or something like that, like visit to Salem, which is like I was in Salem around in Halloween one time and I'll never do it again. It's just too fucking crazy there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to the cool. I mean, I always am this time of year. I'm like really I hope that this year we actually do have some cooler weather because last year was kind of hellish here because it literally like we had a couple months where it was like kind of cool. We had a couple snowstorms and then literally like all of December was like sick. It was like kind of warm, and then January it became basically summer weather, and it's just been we've had little periods here and there of it being cooler, but it's been kind of this year's been kind of a hellish year when it comes to that for me. Like, so I'm ready for. I'm hoping this is a better winter.
Yeah. No, me too, man. Definitely.
Well, I mean,
So
you guys got hammered though
yeah,
last winter.
well, that's just like that's on brand, dude. It's like but it's nowhere near what I used to when I was a kid. We would get like snow would start around Thanksgiving, you know, many, many years in a row, we've had frost and snowfall on Thanksgiving. And routinely we'd get like 2 feet of snow, man. Like that was like when I was growing up as a kid, but now it's different. But we still get hit hard, but not like that.
Yeah, not every year.
Yeah, not every year.
You had some
Um,
years where you didn't get any snow at all, right? So.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Which is scary and unsettling.
Yeah, that's how it was here last year. So you guys got all the snow and we got none.
Yeah. Um, Also, this evening is the season finale for House of the Dragon. So, how have you been finding this third season so far?
I definitely think it's better than last season overall. I've been enjoying it, like there's certain things that I'm like I don't really like the whole Reina plot line. Just because they like replaced another character who's a lot more interesting with her doing it, and they've kind of just like not done anything really interesting with it for me. But it's okay. It doesn't. I'm like not like too mad about it or anything. I just feel like it's a little annoying. But outside of that, I think they've been doing pretty good. I do kind of I don't necessarily need to battle every episode, but I do kind of wish that there's a little bit more like I feel like they could add a little bit more with like the army,
Yeah,
like
yep.
particularly in the whole stuff with like everything with Cole and everything like like what's her name? Allie like kills Cole and like no one knows who she unless like it's like they barely even like showed who she is, you know what I mean? Because they spent so little time with the army there, you know what I mean?
Well, the only reason I even know who she is I like talked to you about it, and then I saw something on YouTube and some of the backstory. You know,
Yeah. That's the only reason that anybody knows who she was because it's totally like they're never even, she hasn't said a single line of dialogue in whole show. Like,
yeah,
so I definitely think that's like the biggest thing. Outside of that, I think it's been pretty entertaining overall. So
yeah. I look forward to it every week, man. Looking forward to tonight's episode. I think it's a longer one, so we're gearing up for that in a few hours. It'll be checking that out here at the Hill household, and
I wish
that I
that
really dig it. You know.
I just wish that HBO would give them 10 episodes again. I think this whole 8 episode thing is kind of hamstringing them because they can't. That's probably part of why some things feel a little bit rushed in the season because they have last season they got cut down to like basically episode 1 and 2 of this season were essentially episode 8, 9, and 10 for last season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like this basically this season's only 6 episodes, really. You know what I mean?
true.
Like the actual
Yeah.
season in of itself. So they're really having to like rush through a lot of stuff, and it kind of sucks because you feel like there's a lot more. There's just more they could do, and they're just having to skip over a bunch of stuff. And I don't really blame them for that.
Some of the
It's
more
really
some of the more interesting character arcs in here have been obviously the Kristen Cole character arc. Even though he's like a pretty uniformly hated character, I found him to be quite interesting this season. Just mainly
yeah.
for his like sort of pessimistic nihilism, which I resonated with that, and his anticlimactic end I thought was very very on brand too.
I kind of liked how he was all gung ho, last season until he saw Dragon War, a War of Dragons, and how it didn't really matter, and all these men he went to go fight with, all just like burned to death in 2 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And after
yeah,
that, he just was like, just like traumatized.
yeah. No, it's interesting, man. And Tormund Hightower, interesting character.
Ormond, yeah, Ormond, yeah,
Ormond Hightower, very interesting character.
yeah,
You
very,
know,
very
um,
psychopathic.
yep. The sort of character arc of Aegon. You know,
I think Aegon's gone through an interesting character arc, and I won't spoil like where it's gonna go, but I really I like I actually kind of like it because I do think Aegon. People will go, "Oh, Aegon was such a bad guy." I'm like, well, he really wasn't raised correctly to take on. Like the thing is, he didn't think that he was gonna be king, right?
yeah, that's right.
They thought the Rhaenyra was gonna be king. But even Viserys didn't do anything to set her up for success either. A lot of the issues and that everything you can kind of see right now is down to Viserys being kind of a weak king who didn't set up anybody. Like he didn't set up Rhaenyra, he didn't set up Aegon, he didn't set up any of them, to be ruling at all. Like he didn't teach them anything. You know what I mean? And so like everybody, so that made it very easy for Otto to kind of step in and be a little weasel. It's really Viserys and Otto. Like early on, Daemon told Viserys to get rid of Otto, and if he had done so, there wouldn't have been all this war and all this death and heartache and everything. You know what I mean?
So after this wraps up, today, this fall, I'm planning to start to actually read the books because I have the whole, box set ready, primed and ready to go. So I'm gonna finally jump into reading these. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. So you're gonna read the Game of Thrones novels.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try to bang through as much as through the whole thing as over the next year or so, next 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, they're long, but they're pretty easy to power through.
Yeah.
Like I recently reread Clash of Kings, and I powered through it like real fast because it's pretty engaging. You get pretty sucked into it.
And I'm almost embarrassed that I haven't read it. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like that's the one thing I should have read this like a long time ago, but now, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I think you're gonna like it. The I the novels are definitely superior to the show for sure. Um, and there's a lot more like, particularly like the actual like mainline show, they kind of got rid of a lot of the magic and like Lovecraftian qualities of that Martin likes to put in his stuff, you know what I mean? So like there's a lot of that kind of stuff in this kind of eldritch like abominations and shit, in a way, but it's more subtle in Martin, at least at the start of it. But there's all these hints of like this kind of the past of the world and everything, and I like that aspect of the actual like writings.
Yeah. No, I think I would enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Particularly all the stuff with when you get into book 2 and you get into like Melisandre and like hold of what are they called, the real lore, all that stuff's pretty cool because Melisandre is so fucking evil.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Like the serpent babe, so this when she gives birth to the serpent, or not serpent, the shadow um part is really cool in the book.
Yeah, so that's what I got to look forward to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's it, man. That's the at least for now. That's the wrap up of Darkness Weaves. We've been working on this for a long time. It's a bittersweet ending, but we'll most likely be back to hit those last few stories at some point.
Yeah.
But
When was the
anyone who enjoyed this though, obviously will be gearing up for Savage World of Robert E. Howard.
definitely when was our uh it's been a while, so I'm trying to like find when our first episode
Oh,
was.
I don't even remember. It had 3 years ago at least.
I think it's over 3 years
Yeah.
because we finished. Yeah, so I think we started in, like, I'm finding this came out in October of 2023, was the final was when he posted the final one from In a Lonely Place.
Oh, dude. So yeah. So
So we started like at the beginning of 2023, so it's like 3.5 years or something like that.
yeah.
So
Okay. That's about right.
because how many
And
stories was in that collection? Like eight?
8 stories. So figure 8 months prior to that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's right. 'Cause we started like in like February or March or something like that, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah. So
Good sense of accomplishment, man.
yeah,
We really did something.
it's kind of crazy that much time has gone by because it doesn't really feel like it, really, in a lot of
It
ways.
does and it doesn't. It's
Yeah.
like I think about when we started it, uh, it feels like for me personally, it feels like a lot of time. It's because a lot of things have sort of come and gone in my life since then. So it's interesting.
Well, I mean, your life's totally different now. You've
Yeah,
like, I
exactly.
mean, you're married and own a house, and
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
like it's like, I mean, you've moved at least once and
Twice.
one or twice now. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's pretty, yeah, because you and when you moved in together with Tina, and then you moved to his house, so he has moved twice. I mean, you've had a lot of change in the
Yeah.
last since we
Yeah.
started it. So
No, totally. Yeah. So it's yeah, to me it seems like an era, has an epoch has come to a close. Even though, all this time spent doing this stuff, it's cool. It's a very welcome uh closing of a chapter, I guess, and then starting a new one, with the Robert E. Howard stuff.
I'm pretty excited to get into Howard.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Because
And-
we've
I'm sorry,
never
go ahead.
we've never discussed any. We haven't done any of his, like, the closest to Howard Sword and Sorcery have done is Worms of the Earth. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about Karl and Conan and all
Oh
this kind
yeah.
of stuff. Because that's gonna be a whole new thing for us in a lot of ways.
I think that we should challenge ourselves to come up with different music for each character.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. Have like
Yeah.
a Karl song and
Yep. Bran, Conan, come up with different, variations and
different
stuff.
intros. Yeah,
Yep. I dig that. I think that'd be a really fun exercise.
yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And we'll have time because we can start off with Cole and then we'll do Conan and then we can. By that point, we should make a kind of library of different ones because
Yeah, man.
we'll have like Solomon Kane, Western stories,
Yep.
mm, historical fiction of
Oh yeah.
various. So, I mean, what else? A bunch of horror stories. There's tons of horror stories we haven't covered yet of his.
Some of his horror stories are some of my favorite stories out of his work, really.
Yeah, we've only covered a Blackstone and Wolf's Head.
Hmm.
And it could be something too where we actually revisit those ones because we covered those so long ago. Like we covered them before we did Darkness Weaves.
Oh, I agree. I would be open to that because we have a
Yeah.
different like intention with it now. So I think it's warranted. And the Wolf said 2 parts. We only did one. You know.
Yeah, we kind of covered the other one because it's only like 2 pages or something, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just kind of mentioned it at the end. Yeah, I think it'd be cool to redo those ones as part of the series. Particularly after all this time of reading a lot of this other stuff, going back to reading the Blackstone after reading a bunch of other, and there's like, White Howard has a ton of great horror stories. I remember when I got that Del Rey horror collection, I got it for October one year, I don't know, 6 years ago or something like that, because I hadn't read all of those. I had like an old paperback version of a bunch of his horror stories. Like it was called like The Black Stone. It was just like a, old paperback. So a lot of those stories I was reading for the first time, and I remember reading that for October that year, and it was a lot of fun reading all of them.
Is that the volume? Is it the white covered one, or is there another? The Del Rey one doesn't it have like Solomon Kane on the cover or something like that?
Yeah, the Del Rey one, the horror stories of Robert E. Howard. The old g- paperback with called The Black Stone had a white cover
That's what I'm thinking of.
with like I'm not I think it was a Frazetta cover with some the funny thing is that it had like the Black Stone and I think maybe Worms of the Earth and like a couple other horror stories, but it had like a sword and sorcery cover. It had like some like barbarian like fighting a snake.
There was a Robert E. Howard horror collection that had like Cthulhu on the cover too. It was like a white book, a white cover.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I
Maybe
got that somewhere.
was that like a Bane cover one or something?
I'm trying to remember. It's in that pile of books over there in the corner that I'm organizing right now.
Was it like like a regular paperback?
No, it was like a trade paperback size book. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like right now, like the bookshelves in my office here are going to be curated more for like specific stuff that I'm into, like for example, all like the weird fiction and cosmic horror stuff's going to be up here, like the Robert E. Howard stuff I have, my trade paperbacks, like the comics. It's some of the historical stuff and like the stuff about witchcraft and the occult and everything's going to be up here. And
Right.
then like our library downstairs is going to be more the stuff that we collectively are into, like just the general horror stuff and literature and that kind of thing. Music
Right. Yeah.
books. Yeah. So right
Yeah.
now
Weird.
all the Robert E. Howard stuff is in that corner of my office right now. So I'm gonna organize the shelves accordingly.
Yeah. I have like almost a full shelf of old paperbacks. I'm like trying to fill up the shelf eventually, and then I have all the Del Rey ones now. Except I think I have all of them now because when I got Swordwoman, and literally have a full shelf of just Conan comics,
Oh,
like
right.
just like
Yeah.
Conan Call, like from like some of those omnibuses I have to like the actual new issues, that
Yeah.
I've been collecting, and all the Savage Sword and. Yeah, so it's cool to see it grow over time.
No, totally, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh
man.
yeah.
So that's it, man. So the next time the two of us are going to be talking about fiction, we're going to be talking about Robert E. Howard.
Yep. No, we'll be kicking that off next month on Soul Knox, uh, doing Kings of the Night. So it'll be fun.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you guys.